Okay, so I've got my floor plan coming together in Revit, and of course we've been taking them back to AutoCAD to develop them up further. And so now I want to do the same thing with my ceiling plan, but to make it make a bit more sense for you to follow, I'm going to change my design a little bit so that I've got some open space and a bit of an atrium or void space in my apartment. And so I'm just going to move, or in fact, redo my stairs. Yeah, left is right, so that it makes more sense or to have a layout that works with some void sort of open space. So above the living area there, I'll have a void, and actually maybe it'll make sense to have the stairs there line up with this wall, and then we're going to have a balcony coming up there. So good trick there. Put in a reference plane and use that to align things. Well, what do you know, it's turned out pretty much in the right spot. But you can see that my reference plane isn't coming up because it's hidden in this view. So another good chance to show you a good little trick there. If you want to change view properties while you're working midstream on an object, in here I'm working on my stairs, but I can easily change to work on or to adjust the view properties just by changing the option there in properties. And now I can go down and get to my visibility settings, and then on annotation categories, move that over so you can see, you'll see that reference planes are turned off, so I'll turn them on there, and now I can see the reference plane and work with it. And, well, actually I want a bit of an overhang, so I'm going to move this a little bit, maybe, no, just do it 100 mil for now, and then move my stair to line up with that. So that's it for the stairs, tick to finish. Right, so now I'll just quickly show you the floor above. And at the moment it's simply identical. I haven't done a two-storey unit, but I'm going to change this so it is a two-storey unit. And so I'm going to edit my floor, and there are actually a couple of options here. So you probably all have an idea about this. You can edit the floor and change the shape of it, or you can put a shaft in. So I'm just going to do a shaft, and then make sure the base offset is above level 1, and then the top constraint I'll set to level 2, and then make the top offset 100 or something. And then I'm just going to draw a line for the shape of my void. There we are. And, oops, sorry. And here it's telling me that when I cut my ceiling, it'll take out this light, because the light is where my void is, or my shaft. And that's fine, I'm happy to delete it. And so there's my shaft. And so now, if I go to my level 1 ceiling plan, we can of course see that void area. And, well, actually, maybe to make it make more sense, now that I can see what the level above looks like, I can go and edit that void, and so maybe something that would tie this whole design together would be around that corner off. Yeah. Okay, so, but the key thing there is that I've got the stairs showing and the ceiling from the level above. So I'm going to right-click and duplicate this view with detailing, and then tidy it up the same way I did before with the plan. So make sure I can find my crop region and use that to crop the view just like you do a floor plan. So the key thing to realise there is that it's a reflection. So it's not a true ceiling plan, but just to give you a tip, no one does true ceiling plans. A ceiling plan would be a mirror image of the floor plan, because you're cutting through and you're looking in the opposite way. So if you opened it up, it would be a mirror. And it might sound like a useful thing, but it's actually not really that useful to have a true ceiling plan. It's much easier to have a reflected ceiling plan because it's oriented the same way as your floor plan. So, complicated to explain a reflected ceiling plan, but it's actually much easier to work with. So as long as you understand it's a reflected ceiling plan, I'm sure you've heard this before, it's showing what would be on the ceiling reflected on the floor, pretty much. It's like there's a mirror on your floor that you see through. Or you see through the ceiling, sorry, and you see the reflection. Yeah. So I'll just tidy up this a little bit more, hide the sections that I don't want, and probably don't need to go through the export process all that much because you've done it before with your floor plans. Okay, so I've got my ceiling plan the way I want it, except so I make the scale 150, and another section pops in, of course. And things like studio lights, of course, we would hide. Okay, so that might do it for now. And then I think I showed you that you can export from a sheet. So that definitely is an option, and if you do the extra steps and set up a sheet, that will save you a little bit of work back in AutoCAD. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to export from the view. And that's fine. I mainly showed you exporting from the sheet last time so that you get the title block as well. But we've got the title block already in that other file, so I don't need to get it again. So I'm just going to export from the view. That's fine. So export CAD formats. And next, still a good idea to turn this option off, even though it won't really do anything here because we're only going to have the one view anyway. And I'll still turn it off and make sure that it's got a name that I know. And once again, just so I know what it is, so I'm going to just call it reflected ceiling plan. Okay, and then I'll go and open that file. Oh, well, I've saved it in the old folder. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so with AutoCAD, there are all sorts of great options for linking files together. So I'll show you a couple of options, but then I'll show you the easy way. So I'm just pointing out these options because other people will expect you to know them. And so there are really two main options from the old days of AutoCAD before it had the copy and paste capability. The quick way is just to insert a block. I'm sorry, this is cutting off the buttons. Oh yeah, great. So here you've got the same option as well. So on the Home tab, so under Block you can go to Insert and then go to More Options and then Browse. And it's actually, I think, a great thing in the design of AutoCAD that they didn't decide to have a format for blocks. So what that means is you can insert any drawing file into any other drawing file. And that's a great thing, because in Revit you can't do that. You can't insert one project into another project. You can link them, but you can't just insert them. Right? The way you can insert families, but not projects. So it's a great thing. AutoCAD's not fussy like that. So if you need to combine drawings, it's always a simple thing. So I can insert the reflected ceiling plan, and that would work. Okay, but I won't do, well, actually I will do it, just so you can see how it works. I'll leave these options and click OK. So I've only got insertion point specify on screen ticked, nothing else. Click OK, and I can place this to the side, and it's all combined as a block. But then do you know what to do if you want to work on it? Exactly. Explode is another great thing AutoCAD gives you that Revit doesn't really have, even though there are, explode type things. But yeah, explode brilliant in AutoCAD because you can explode anything. And it might be an idea to line them up first, but apart from that, so I just drew a line. Yeah, there is an align tool, But that's a new thing in AutoCAD, and they pretty much took it from Revit, and it just doesn't work as well as in Revit. So you'll find it's probably easier to pick things up and move them. So I just use the move command. So yeah, that's it. So again, still a block, but I can explode that, and it works. The other option I'll just point out, maybe I won't show it to you now because you maybe don't really need it, but it's good to know that you've got this option to attach external references. So that works a bit like a block, except that it's linked. So if I change the original file, those changes will come across into this file. And that can be really useful because you might want the ceiling plan kept in its own file, work on it there, and then it's all combined in a master file. So that's a great option. And linking files works much better in AutoCAD than it does in Revit. Far better. Have you tried linking things in Revit? You'd know if you had, it's torture. Because you can't even have the two files open at the same time once they're linked. It won't allow it. It's just a limitation in the software. Yeah, it's crazy. In AutoCAD, you can have them all open and be working on the files when they're linked together, and it gives you lots of options to update them as you go. It's a really good system. So it's good to know about that. So that's what external references are, the option that I got you to turn off when you're making your export from Revit. So that works. But then the other option, which is probably going to be the easiest for you at first, is simply to select the things in the file you want to take them from, right-click, go to clipboard, and then copy. And then you can go to another file, right-click, go to clipboard, and paste. So you can easily copy and paste from one file to another. No. Not linked. That's right, exactly. Yeah. Or anytime. So if you need to get things from one file to another, that's a great option. Yeah, that's right, exactly. Almost exactly the same as Photoshop. Yeah. Yes. That's the whole point. Everything on your ceiling. So lighting, emergency services, air conditioning, they're the main things. Yeah, now, yes. Yeah, so that's, yes. Now, it's easy because you don't have many emergency services for an apartment. There's one big one. What do you think the main alarm type thing you have in residential? Yeah? Fire, yeah? Or what's the other word for it? What's it detecting? Smoke. Smoke alarm. Yeah, that's it. So smoke alarm detection or detection alarm system, technically. And so you need those. And it sounds complicated. When you look up the VCA controls, there's a lot of clauses. Yeah, but when I explain it to you, you'll see it's quite easy. Now, if you talk to a fire consultant, any good fire consultant worth their money will tell you you should put them in every room nowadays. That's good practice. And in fact, that's standard practice for any good development. Don't know about these dodgy apartments, but yeah, that's right. Well, that's the requirement. So the legal requirement at the moment still is that it needs to be between the sleeping areas and the rest. Yeah, that's the problem. That's why people don't want them, because they were too sensitive, but they're better now. I've got one in my kitchen, and it's fine. Well, sprinklers is another thing, but you don't need sprinklers in this building. Yeah, that's right, exactly, yeah. And they're much better than they were, yeah. And it's good practice when you know, I mean, I went to school with some people, two kids in a family, and they both died in a fire in a house, yeah. No smoke alarms. This is, in the 80s, but still. So, yeah, that's right. I know, they're very sensitive, yeah. But they're getting better, yeah. So, so once you understand that basic principle, it's meant to wake you up when you're sleeping, and so you need to have it separating or between any sleeping areas and the rest of your unit. So in this case, where do you think it would go? Exactly, right in front of the bedroom. Yep, right next to the bedroom door. Now, if you've got a hallway, say you've got a hallway serving a bunch of bedrooms, then it needs to go at the end of the hallway, in between the bedrooms and the rest of the living space.
Are you going to show us the symbol for it?
Yes, I'll get you one. Yep, sure. Okay, so to get symbols and blocks, yep. Yes, yeah, if it says, if it's a ceiling plan in Revit, it's... Yeah, just crop it like you did the floor plan. Yep. Yeah, you've got to activate the view. Yep, and then turn on cropping down below. No, down below. Yep. Okay, so to get the symbols, it's, again, a block. So I'm going to go to Blocks on the Home tab, Insert, More Options, and then Browse. Yeah, so the folder on the P drive. So I'm going to go here to Student Resources, the P drive, EDDC Interior Design, AutoCAD Library, and then 2019, oh sorry, not 2019 blocks, sorry, AutoCAD blocks. Oh, sorry, blocks 2D, I mean. Yep, so sorry, there's a few folders. They're all for blocks. But yeah, blocks 2D is the one we need. And then legends. And then we're doing it 1 to 50. So electrical legend 1 to 50. And then so you've got fire legend as well. Maybe we should get both. We'll start with the electrical legend. So electrical legend 1 to 50. Double click. OK. And I'm going to place that over to one side. And I'm fairly certain there's a fire alarm. Yep, there it is, that's the one. So it's, again, a block, so I'm going to select it and explode it. And then I'm just going to simply select the smoke alarm symbol and copy it to where it should be on the ceiling. Yep. Yes. Yeah. And it should be on the upper level as well. Yeah. But the requirement is that it's between the sleeping areas and the living areas. So I think on the stairs legally might be enough. Have to check the controls, but it should really be on both levels. That's best practice. Yeah, and I mean they're cheap these days. They're like $80 or something, or even less. Yeah. And the ones with batteries are fine, even though if you're doing a new build, they're supposed to be hardwired, so they're supposed to have their own electrical power supply. So, yeah, most of them with batteries for retrofits, for putting in to an existing building. Yeah, so putting into an existing building. Yeah, it's a fairly new thing, the hardwired requirement. Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, well, I think maybe it's more recent. I think it was 2016. I think, yeah. Okay, so that's it. So I've got my smoke alarm. Then, but this is on my floor plan. Sorry, wrong plan. So I'll move that across to the ceiling plan, of course. And then what's happened? Because I'd exploded it, it was a group of objects. So I need to select it properly, and then I'll... Yeah. And I stupidly copied it instead of moving it, so I'll go back and delete the original. There we are. So that's it. And then the only other thing you probably should have on your ceiling plan, apart from maybe making stairs look a bit better than I've got them there, but we'll come back to that. Of course, you need the lighting, and I probably would need a few more lights than this, so it's a good chance to correct your lighting, because in Revit you'll only have just generic lighting sometimes. So you can always just copy light symbols if they're down lights, a symbol like that, but in this electrical legend block, you'll see there are quite a few symbols for lights. I'm not a huge fan of these opal acrylic things, but I'll use it for now. And they're quite bright, and you don't need that many of them, so I can easily place them around. Yeah, they're a bit tacky, but again, they'll do the job. Something like that. But if you want to do better lighting design, of course, that's good. So you need lights. By rights, you should also have circuits indicated. So you show the light switch, So there should be a symbol here for a light switch. There we go. It's the basic one. There's a better one than this, but this is okay. Have you seen there is a better one that shows the number of switches and other things? But for this, it's okay to use this basic one. And I'll show you the better one later. So, Revit does. Oh, Revit's got a bunch of them. Oh yeah, yeah. But the cross, you know, it's not the best, but it's enough for now. So the important, because this is quite simple lighting. So the important thing is that you show the connection, or in other words, which lights are controlled by which switch. Okay, so to show that, you draw a dashed line. So I'll make a new layer, and I'll call it A light and circuit. And I'll just make it a colour that works for me. And I'm going to change the line type, not to dashed, but I'm going to go to load and get hidden. Hidden is just a smaller dash. Choose it again to set it. And that's it. So, okay, so then to show those connections, I'm going to draw some arcs from my light switch to each light that is controlled. So I'm thinking Revit, so I'll just do that again. Okay, so with AutoCAD, you draw an arc with using the 3-point option by going from the start point, then to the middle point, then to the end. So a bit different to Revit. Notice my dashes are really small. That's because of the scale. So here I'm going to change the scale. Well, again, another thing you get from Revit, even though it is metric, these guys who program Revit don't think in that way, so they forget sometimes that some of the settings, like the scales they give you, are still imperial. When you see scales like that with the little apostrophes, that means it's imperial. So I'm going to go here to custom. I'm going to delete all of these imperial scales, we don't need them. And then go to add. Well, so I've got a 1 to 50 scale there, but I'll add another one to see if you missed that earlier. So I'll make a 1 to, what scale are we going to do the details? A 1 to 10. And then I'll make this 1 equals 10. And I'll reorganise that a bit more as well. Right, so now I can go to here and choose 1 to 50. And then to update the display, you type RE for regen, enter, and that regenerates regen, or regenerate. Yeah. So that's how you show your lighting connections. So yeah, it's arbitrary. So they're not where the wires really go. The electricians will work that out. It's just to show that that switch controls that light. So then you might have another switch to control this other light. So the easiest way is just to have a new symbol for that. So I'm just copying. No, just whatever looks good. Yep. 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 So you could have it, like that if you need to. So I'll do another arc now from this other switch, even though, again, there are better symbols that would show one switch panel with two lines on it to show that it has 2 switches. But for a small project like this, this one's fine. Oh, again, I keep doing it the Revit way. So, I actually like the AutoCAD way better, but it's just remembering. Okay, so that might be enough to show the light connections for the living and the dining room, but of course you need them for all the lights. That's it. Can't think of anything else. Let me know, I might have forgotten. Oh yeah, so air conditioning ducts now. It depends on the air conditioning system that you've chosen. So yeah, you do have to think about it. Now, a ducted system is the best, but it's probably overkill in a space like this. So it'd be more typical to have a split system for this, and that's pretty much what these units here are.
Sorry, what's it for?
The air conditioning. Yeah. So a split system doesn't need the ducts, really. It does have a bit of ducting, but not like a fully ducted system. So essentially you'd have either probably just a wall-mounted unit, I think might be the easiest. And for a space like this, again, you'd need to talk to or look at the specifications, but I'd say one unit, just trying to think of a good spot for it, one unit might be enough though for this space. Yeah, but that's why you'll see a lot of the recommendations. Oh yeah, the bedroom would need another one. Yeah, so you'd have one unit for the living space and then another one for the bedroom. Yeah. But then a lot of the design guides will try to recommend that you section off your living spaces so that you can control them separately, which kind of goes against a lot of the other design ideas that you're taught, which is that open plan is good, and yeah, so you've got those two different things. But again, I think here we can just have a big zone. Right, so again, if it's if it's a split system, then again it could be just a wall-mounted unit, and maybe it could be over here, so a rectangle. But also you can't do ducted, because ducted could be good. But again, it's just not. It's a much more expensive option than a split system as well. That's why they don't usually do it for apartments these days. Yeah, so let's just say it's split, and so we'll put in and they're a hybrid, split ducted as well. But anyhow, we'll go with this one, and I'll spend too long on air conditioning. It'd be a nice thing to design apartments without them, and I wish you still could do that. Passive design should work in Sydney, for definitely for heating. You don't need that much heating, really. But the reality is that people expect air conditioning these days. And you could even have two units. So you could have a unit over here, and then another one maybe down here, and then one in the bedroom. So because they're close to the ceiling, or they're up, above most other things, then it's fine to show them on the ceiling plan, just a rectangle, and then make a symbol, and maybe even label it. Yeah, it would, but that can go through the ceiling, or even through the walls. It's fairly straightforward. And then, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, well, that's the problem, having a connection. I mean, you have to do it. Oh, right. Okay, well, maybe, all right, so maybe it might be better for some of your designs, rather than doing a split system, to have ducted system, and then have a central air conditioning system. I don't want to get too far into that, because technically you need air handling units on each level as well, which you wouldn't have planned for. Yeah. Yeah. But I won't be too long. I'll finish in a minute. So, yeah, so look, maybe we'll say you can put ducting in, and we'll just say that you have, because you're not going to show the whole level, you have a space for your air handling units somewhere. Okay, so do you know what ducts look like? There isn't a symbol here, I don't think. Oh, yeah, here we go. There's an exhaust vent. So, yeah, okay, again, it gets a bit complicated. There are different approaches, but you can have a two-way system where you have supply air and return air, and that's the best. And with those, you generally need more supply outlets than return air. So, yeah, well, no, they're the old ones, because they were the better systems. But then it's the second best option is just to have supply, and then the return air just gets taken through any ventilation gaps that you've got in windows and things. And then the third best option is split system. So yeah, it'd be good if again, you've got to be a mechanical engineer to be able to do this properly, but let's say you can assume that you've got one exhaust vent in a unit, probably is all you need, and definitely in a big living space like this, one would be enough. This is a small one, but we'll say that's enough. And it's easy in a building like this because you can have it maybe as a direct exhaust that's near a wall, and that can just get taken straight out, which is a good system. So maybe I'll just put that over in this area. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. It is a fan, that's right. They do have their own fans quite often. And that's right, and then, so it'd have the vent, and then the fan's got it behind that, and it pushes the air to the outside. Now, the supply air is usually bigger. So here, again, we're not mechanical engineers, so they'd need to confirm it with their calculations, but maybe 2 would be enough for a space like this. 2 or 3. So maybe 1 about here, and then... Okay, so the symbol for supply air is cross, so I'm going to simply scale that rectangle, also I'll scale the whole thing. So I've just selected it, and I'm going to click scale and make it 2, in other words, twice the size. And then draw a line the other way. So that can be your symbol for supply air. So in fact, it's normally the other way around, but I know, let's do it the right way. So it varies, but let's just have a look. Oh no, they're saying the cross can work, so let's go with that. Yep, supply cross. Okay, good. Okay, so that's the supply air symbol, and then I'll copy that and put another one maybe over here somewhere. Yeah, it's a bit of guesswork. Yeah, maybe that kind of works. And then another one for the bedroom. That should be enough. But just remember, if you're going to go with that system, you need to allow for the ductwork in the ceiling. So at least allow a couple of 100 mil for your ducting. And that'll do it. You don't need to show the ducting in plan, but you definitely need to allow for it. And again, I've made the mistake of doing it on my floor plan, but it's not a bad idea to plan it that way. And then you can move it over to your ceiling plan afterwards. Beauty of using AutoCAD, it's easy to locate things precisely using a base point. And what you should remember that your ceiling plans shouldn't show all of these furnishings that are on the floor. So I'll sort of clear those out as I go. And that should do it. So maybe just to give you one last little tip. I've got the title block set up in this file. So now I want another sheet with the same basic setup, with that same title block. So a great option you have in AutoCAD that you don't have in Revit, again, is the ability to duplicate sheets. So I'm going to right click on this layout one, then tick move or copy. So just choose, move or copy. And then tick create a copy. And I want it to go in between layout 1 and 2, so I'm going to choose layout 2, and it goes above that. It goes above the one you pick. So I'll click OK. So now I've got an exact copy. Okay, I've got an exact copy of the layout. Oh, it's weird. It's lost my viewport. How did that happen? Anyhow, I'll delete the viewport and I'll show you how to make a new one. So this is something you probably wouldn't have done before. To make a new viewport, you've got to go to the Layout tab, and then it's the rectangular button. Gives you a rectangular viewport. And you just click 2 points to draw a rectangle. Now, if you want to be really fussy, there are ways of lining up the plans so that they're in exactly the same spot on each sheet, but I'll show you that later. For now, just do it by eye. So I'm zooming in the viewport to place the plan roughly by eye. Then I'm going to set the scale to 1 to 50 to set the size accurately, and then I can come back onto the page, and if I need to change that viewport to a non-printing layer, which you should have, a no plot, NPLT means no plot, but you still need to check in your layer settings that that layer has printing turned off. It should have, but it doesn't always come through properly from there. So just check there that you've got the no printing setting for that layer. And that's it. So that'll give you your ceiling plan on a sheet, just like the floor plan. Again, I'll show you later how to line them up exactly. It's a nice thing if they line up, but for now, that's good enough. And just remember, it's preliminary, so they don't need to be perfect. As long as you've got the services showing. What have I missed? Oh yeah, my lighting, that was clever. So I did my lighting circuits, but I again put them onto my floor plan. So I'll just move them now onto the ceiling plan. And again, it's a good chance to look at copying things or moving them using a base point like the corner of the room there. Makes it easy to locate these things. And I'm still going to get the lights. If it's being picked up, it may not be, because it might be outside of the range of the view. But otherwise, just allow a rectangle. It wouldn't be very big for a building like this. It'd be not very big at all. Not much bigger than for a house. Unless is anyone doing photovoltaics with a battery? Solar panels? It's something you should always think about. Any residential building like this that's built nowadays would have them, and then a lot of buildings now also have batteries to store the power from the solar panels. It's not that expensive, and there are lots of really amazing batteries nowadays. And sorry. Oh, so you need a room. If you're going to do that, then you need a room. So otherwise, though, just the switchboard's enough. But if you're going to go for the whole setup with the solar panels and the battery, that's a bit more involved, and then you need an inverter and all these other things. Otherwise, though, it's a simple distribution panel. That's not difficult, and not that big. Yep. So that should be enough for your ceiling plan, something like that. And don't forget the legend. So the legend I gave you has a lot of symbols that you won't need, so just delete the things you don't need, and you can make a viewport to show the legend, but we'll maybe come back to that later. Sorry? Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So I'll come back to the legend, and maybe make sure there's time to look at the details. So that should be enough to give you the basic ceiling plan.